Hello and welcome to the Focusing Way podcast. I'm your host, David Battistella. Please share this podcast with others as a way of introducing them to the people, themes, concepts, and beauty of focusing. Our website is thefocusingway.com. Follow us on Twitter at The Focusing Way. This podcast is available on iTunes and Stitcher. Our philosophy is simple: focusing for better living. If you really enjoy this, you can support us by making a contribution via Patreon as well. All the links are on the website. Now, on to the good stuff. Today on the Focusing Way podcast, we open up into a new direction, speaking with non-focusers who, in their own unique way, have lived a focusing life. Many years ago, I joined a community website called Creative Cow. Eventually, I became a leader on that website, and I got to know Ron and Kathleen Lindeboom, the creators of it. They created an online community like no other, a place on the internet that was moderated and full of healthy discussion and media professionals sharing and helping one another. I caught up with Ron Lindeboom at his home in Arizona and had a wonderful conversation about community building and life. Ronald and Kathleen Lindeboom first pioneered web-based communities for media professionals in digital video in 1995, and from this early beginning grew a vital international community that grew to well over 2 million unique visitors a month under their leadership. As CEO of Creative Cow LLC and later the publisher of Creative Cow magazine, Ronald drew on a wide range of skills developed during his 40-year career in media, marketing, and business management. Creative Cow magazine was launched in December of 2005, as most print magazines were ceasing print, and critics laughed at the idea of launching a new magazine into such adverse conditions. But Creative Cow magazine's incredible rise and popularity was the key reason that Folio magazine named Ronald as one of its 2011 Folio 40 Most Visionary Magazine Publishers in the industry. The Creative Cow website today serves over 1.3 million monthly unique visitors from around the world, even in a world of Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and a myriad of other competitors. And now, here's part 3 of my conversation with Ronald Lindeboom. You've mentioned Kathleen a lot over the course of our talk, and I just maybe want to take a moment to talk about relationships and how, when they're formed, the strength and power that can be sort of brought to one's life. And, you know, in your case, it's a marriage. In other people's cases, it might be a friendship. But can you just talk to us a little bit about her and what your life has been like with her?
Well, when I met Kathleen, I was health failing. I had lost most of my hearing. Fungus had gone into my ears and ravaged my ears. I had lost my career. I had lost my job. I was destitute. I met a friend who gave me a job painting houses with him so I could eat and share paying my rent for a room. And I was pretty well at the bottom of the barrel. And I met Kathleen, and we got on the phone one night, and we started talking at 6 o'clock in the evening. And we talked, and this was the first time we really talked. And we talked from 6 o'clock in the morning, or 6 o'clock in the evening, rather, till 9 o'clock the next morning. And we kind of realized in that phone call that the universe kind of wanted us together. And her life was a mess. She was equally at the bottom of the barrel as I was. But together, we fused into this integrated organism that became unstoppable. We were like this fusion of opposites. I'm an old hippie acid head from the 60s whose older brother once dosed him with 127 hits of LSD all at once. And the only way I survived that experience was he looked at me and smiled and he said, "Okay, Ronnie, you got two choices here. You can stay in this concert until you freak out and lose it and end up in the mental ward, or you can climb that mountain." It was an outdoor concert in Laguna Beach, California. "And you can climb that hill over there and go talk to God." Well, option two sounded the much better option. So I ended up surviving that. I'm an old hippie rocker from the 60s in Orange County, California, and playing drums and the whole 9 yards. Kathleen couldn't be more diametrically opposed to that. I mean, how I hustled her into throwing in her lot with me is one of the great love stories, because she had to just go, "This is the wackiest alignment I've ever heard." But her stability became my strength and foundation, and my ability to go into just the most wackiest ideas and to play in the abstract and to go into things that my friends laugh. "Ron, you'll go onto the branch and then saw the branch off and expect to stand in midair." And I do. And I can do that because of Kathleen, and we tend to inspire one another, where I'm the artist and dreamer, she's the mathematician and scientist. And we're this fusion of opposites, but where we have this massive crossover is we both learned long ago that our major, the most important thing in our life, is our spiritual life.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to share anything about that?
Well, we tend to be the craziest Christians you'll ever meet. We don't tend to be acceptable. We like to say we've been thrown out of more God-fearing churches than you can imagine. We tend to be a whole different. We take our faith very seriously. We both are very grounded in it. We've been in our beliefs for many, many, many years. But one of the things that we really believe is that we think that most Christians, per se, gut their reading of the book and are left with black words on a white page. We, on the other hand, we really do believe that God is talking to you all the time. And your biggest challenge is to slow down enough, listen to your circumstances, listen to what's around you, look at circumstances. Your circumstances are talking to you. Life is talking to you. Your body is talking to you. The way your friends align is talking to you. Even business is talking to you, just like Creative Cow, to bring things back to the cow. We never felt like the cow was our business. People that were our biggest critics thought we were this big deal. We never thought we were a big deal. We knew an awful lot of people who really were the big deal, but that wasn't us. We just were trying to do something because we were listening to circumstance, and circumstance told us this was needed. There needed to be this community. And so we adjusted our reality based on need. And I think that's part of what you're saying about the whole thing of focusing and everything is to truly listen. I like to say you got to listen with every cell in your body until your cells are listening, and you suck that experience almost on a cellular level. You've got to draw it into you and make it yours. You have to own it. And good and bad. I used to tell this to my kids that you have to own it. If it's failure, you can't be afraid of it. You put it on and own it until it becomes Joseph's amazing Technicolor dream coat, because that failure is the greatest teacher you're ever going to have. And if it's victory, like finally, one of the things that shocked me was just before this happened to me, my father died. And, I was so sad that he had passed, because in 2011, in April, the Magazine Publishers Association named me one of the 40 most visionary and important publishers in America for that year, for my work with Creative Cow magazine. I mean, here was Hearst magazine and Scientific American and Time and all these big magazines, and down at number 39 was Ron Lindeboom, Creative Cow. And I laughed because, I just thought, this is wonderful. But the power was in the vision. The power wasn't in me being clever. The power was in focusing on those people that were at that trade show and seeing their need. What's wrong with these people? It's 10 years after, and they have lost their vision. They're not enthusiastic anymore. They're sullen. They're uninspired. Look at these people. Look at their faces, Kathleen. And the more we talked about it, the more we realized that what we needed to build was something that reminded them of their unique place in history. And that's what the magazine became. And one day, the publisher or managing editor of American Cinematographer walked up to me at the Cinegear show on the back lot on Paramount Studios, and she said to me, "Are you Ron Lindeboom?" Because my badge was turned around. I said, "Yeah." And she said, "It's an honor to meet you." I said, "No, the honor is mine. I love your magazine." She said, "I love yours." She said, "How do you get away with what you do?" And I just told her, I just said, "We serve our audience." And she said, it's clear you don't serve your advertisers. I said, no, if we served our advertisers, we'd be as compromised as everyone else. And she laughed and said, yeah, I know what you're saying because we found ourselves in that position long ago and we can't get out of it.
Mhm.
And I shared with her, yeah, you have to listen and you have to become these things. And I think that all of this is woven into the spiritual fabric of our lives, who we are as people, what we learned over the decades, what we took from our failures, what we took from our victories, and what we became as human beings to the point that, to back up a second, when my father was dying, he made everyone leave the room except me. He just wanted me in the room with him and made my stepmom, who he'd been with for 35 years, he made everyone else leave. And we kind of sat there as two men, well versed in our successes and our failures. And he looked at me, and I knew this was it. This was the end of the line. And I just told him, I just said, Dad, it wasn't always good. A lot of times it was painful, but I want you to know if God let me choose any other man as my father and said I could get another go around, I could have any dad I wanted on the planet, I want you to know I would choose you again. I
Hmm.
would take you over any other man on this planet because you have more courage to overcome what you did and to become the man you became and all the things that he went through. I got to tell you, David, it was incredible. And he turned and looked at me with tears in his eyes. And, and I said, Dad, you're a good man. And he could barely speak. And he said, I tried. And
Oh.
I said, you didn't try, Dad. You excelled. You excelled. And how did he excel? He failed and failed and failed so many times and left so much pain in his wake, but he never gave up. And one day, all that failure added up to the fuel he needed to become one of the most glorious men you ever met in your life, one of the funniest, sweetest, kindest, gentle, caring men. And at his memorial service, all these people stood up that I had never met. I had never heard the story. Kathleen cried. These guys were men from the street who said I was a homeless vet. And if George Lindeboom had not picked me up and helped me and showed me how to get back on my feet, I would still be on the street. And I had never heard these stories. My dad had never told me. And I thought, no wonder I went the way I did. This is what I saw in his life, and this is what I did. And the cow was an extension of trying to prove to my dad that I listened well to the things that I believed that he got right, the wonderful things about his character, how much he cared about human beings, and all the things I saw that he inspired me. And I took those lessons and I wove those into Creative Cow too.
Hmm. Wow. What an inspiration.
He was a wonderful man, David. You would have loved him.
Hmm. Yeah. Sounds like the very fabric of those kinds of people that bring humanness to humanity.
He never, while he did very well in his life and ended up making a lot of financial success, he never rose above his station. He always was the same guy. He always was a dairy kid with manure between his toes and cow shit under his fingernails. And He just became the average guy who just listened to people's pain, understood it well because of what he went through in his life, and he never gave up on people, even when they cheated him, even when they robbed him, and people did. People that he helped would steal a lot from him. He never held it against them, and he always hung on to them, even when they weren't worthy of being hung on to. And boy, I'll tell you, like I said, life talks to you, and you better listen because all around us, there are people that need our strength, but there are people that inspire us and give us strength. And I think that's the way it's supposed to be, like that father you were talking about earlier who said that his faith changes every day. It
Mm.
has to. It has to change not only every day, but circumstance to circumstance. If you're truly listening to the fabric of your life, and if you're weaving, if you're the active weaver that's at the loom of your own life, you're changing that fabric moment to moment. And it has to be because life is moving and life is living and it's breathing, and it's why it can be that Royal Rife was correct. It's that electrical fabric that's vibrating, and if you know its frequency and its specificity, you can dial it in and you can make it work. And all these things weave together into the same one story, and it becomes this giant tapestry, like that old song by Carole King. Remember that one, Tapestry? I love that song.
Yeah. Wow. I'm just so grateful for this time that we've been spending together here, and it just feels like there's one kind of focusing where we at the end of this specific kind of focusing, we do a check-in, and we sort of check how we were at the beginning and how we are now. And you know, when I came into this, I was already sort of thinking about all the wonderful things I wanted to speak to you about, and I was imagining what we might share. And now at the end of it, I feel so full. I feel so grateful that we've been able to make this connection, and that you've been so generous and so sharing. I really, really appreciate you and uh, and your presence here.
Well, David, you're one of the men that Kathleen says that the thing she loves best about the cow are the people we've met, the wonderful people, the storytellers, the people that are the visionaries, the people that are the ones who really gave the cow. We may have taken your thread and wove it together with all the other threads that were in the cow. That was our job and that was our place. But it's the fabric, it's the threads that made the story. And that's why I wanted to be on the show with you, because you're one of those names that Kathleen and I look at and we go, David Battistella. He is, you are the cow. You are the spiritual essence of why the cow succeeded. It was people like you, the people that came in and shared their stories, that poured their life into it, that gave their heart to it, that wrapped their spirituality around it, who understood that the cow really was a spiritual entity. It isn't just a forum. And it came, I mean, the thing is so old, the mechanism is so old, it's so outdated, and yet it goes on and on and on. And there's no reason for that other than it is what it is because of people like you.
Thank you for that. So lovely. Ron, I'd like to thank you very much for our time today.
It has been a great honor, David. I love you dearly, and you know, I'm honored to know you, and I am twice honored to be on your show.
To the good stuff. You've been listening to the Focusing Way podcast. For links and to subscribe, visit our website at thefocusingway.com. Follow us on Twitter at thefocusingway. Please share this podcast with others as a way of introducing them to the people, themes, concepts, and beauty of focusing. If you really enjoy this and want to support us, you can support us using Patreon as well. Until next time, I'm your host, David Battistella.